Hey everyone, and welcome to AMC Movie Talk. Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm Crystal Kennedy, and this is the show where we bring you the day's biggest movie news, and of course we give you insight into what it all means. Joining me, as always, is AMC Movie News Senior Editor, Mr. John Campea.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. Good morning, Crystal. Today's, we learn something new every day, and today I learned a valuable lesson in life, and that lesson is this: never have Liam Hemsworth lead your film, because apparently it doesn't turn out very well.
And on that note, we also have joining us the man behind the computer screens, Mr. Dennis Sang.
How are you guys doing? I'm just still kind of recovering from last night's Geeky Awards. It was I went to it last night, and I think I drank a little bit.
just a little. I saw pictures of you sitting in the captain's chair, the Enterprise captain's chair.
Yes, that was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Star Trek Next Generation captain's chair, especially after the discussion we both had on Mailbag
on the weekend about Star Trek.
And I was with Schnepp and our friend Ryan, and we all took pictures on it.
Oh, so. Very cool. Hey, listen, folks, before we get into the movie news today, I want to remind you about a little contest we have going. Today is the last day that we're accepting entrants. Right now, Crystal has a wonderful Kick-Ass 2 hoodie. It's actually a very cool hoodie. We got 4 of these to give away. So here's how you can get your grubby little greedy hands on one of these awesome Kick-Ass hoodies. Simply email us at amcmovietalk@gmail.com, and in the subject line, this is important, put Kick-Ass 2 as the subject line. Then email us a picture of you striking a pose with or without a costume and holding up a sign saying your Kick-Ass superhero name. So a picture of you striking a pose, your Kick-Ass superhero name, send it to amcmovietalk@gmail.com with the subject line Kick-Ass 2. Tomorrow we are going to select 4 people and send them these amazing green hoodies. Crystal Lee, however, is keeping that one.
Yeah, you guys want it because it's super soft and comfy, and when you wear it, you become a superhero. So you want this hoodie.
Just like that.
Instant. With having character crossovers in almost all the Marvel films and Batman and Superman getting ready to share the big screen, it looks like Fox is ready to create a shared superhero universe as well for their characters. Mark Millar, the special consultant for Fox's Marvel characters, was recently asked about the speculation that when Fantastic Four is rebooted in 2015, that we could see X-Men characters show up in it. Millar responded with the following: "Without question, I think you have to see some of these guys showing up in each other's movies. I think the most exciting thing in superhero movies until the Avengers came along was when Nick Fury showed up in Iron Man. Even though it was a guy with an eye patch, it was really cool, and I expect we will see more of that." John, what do you think of Fox creating a shared universe for its X-Men and Fantastic Four characters?
I think this is brilliant, and this is the way this should absolutely go. Now, it should be pointed out that Millar later came out on his Twitter and said, hey, look, hold up. We don't have plans for X-Men to show up in Fantastic Four, and I believe that. I don't think we're going to see any X-Men in the Fantastic Four reboot to start. And Millar's made the point before, and I think a very good point, that in starting Fantastic Four again, you need to just focus on Fantastic Four, and having like Wolverine pop up or Rogue or something pop up could take the attention away and make something else the attention. But make no mistake, their plan, clearly from his comments, their plan in the future is to have these guys, X-Men and the Fantastic Four, living in a shared universe, which means ultimately we're going to see some crossover. This is absolutely the way Fox should go. Fox only has 2 properties. They have X-Men and they have Fantastic Four, but these are big properties. X-Men have tons of characters. In the Fantastic Four canon, there are lots of characters to use. And I think since they can't use Spider-Man, they can't use any of the other Avenger characters, whatever, work with what you got, and they have plenty of characters to make a really good, vast cinematic universe without it getting too convoluted. And going that direction is absolutely what they should do. Rebooting Fantastic Four affords them the opportunity to do that. So I think this is a great move on their part. Dennis, what do you see?
Yeah, it's a good. I think it's a good plan not to get too much crossover in the beginning, just so they can focus, especially with Fantastic Four. But I kind of see like maybe like an after credits scene or something like that might kind of lend that, showing the shared universe. And people forget that X-Men, you know how big Avengers is. X-Men, like before Avengers came out, X-Men is by far the more popular franchise.
Yeah, it's true.
Avengers, like people, I know what, reading comic books, like people didn't really talk about the Avengers. Everyone talks about X-Men. So it's much larger, and there's much more things that they can do with it.
Yeah, overall I think it's a great move.
I've always loved X-Men, and First Class really stepped up their game, but I love how Marvel has really forced every other company to step up their game with the superhero movies.
It's true. Avengers set a new bar.
Yeah, and the first Fantastic Four was and I'm so excited for a new one because now I think they're going to put so much more into it that it's going to be a hit.
If by you mean crap, yeah. The first Fantastic Four movie was
Easily the biggest comedy smash hit of 2012 was Seth MacFarlane's Ted. Both MacFarlane and Mark Wahlberg have since suggested that they plan on making a Ted 2. However, nothing official has ever been confirmed. Now it seems plans are a little more shored up as MacFarlane took to his Twitter to announce they are aiming to release Ted 2 on the weekend of April 3rd in 2015. This would mean MacFarlane would go right into production on Ted 2 almost as soon as his work in the comedy A Million Ways to Die in the West, which will hit AMC theaters everywhere on May 30th, 2014, and stars MacFarlane with Charlize Theron, Amanda Seyfried, Giovanni Ribisi, and Liam Neeson. Dennis, what do you think of Ted 2 coming in 2015?
I think it's a no-brainer. I mean, the movie cost like $50 million to make, and it made, I think, what was it, like close to 500?
550.
Yeah, worldwide. Yeah, of course they're gonna make it. I really like Ted. I think it was the second funniest film I had seen that year, just behind 21 Jump Street for me. Another thing that I did think was weird with the box office success is usually comedies don't translate that well overseas, and it made like over 300 million.
Lots of money overseas, yeah.
I found very fascinating.
It's the teddy bear.
Especially R-rated comedies. R-rated comedies do not do well overseas. That's just a rule. Death taxes, R-rated comedies don't do well overseas. And this one did. Yeah, this is a no-brainer. It absolutely is a no-brainer. How many more great-looking films can we slam and scrunch and squeeze into 2015? This is looking, and look, let's not forget A Million Ways to Die in the West. This sounds hilarious. And the cast is amazing. Liam Neeson in a really good comedy.
Yeah.
This I cannot wait to see. I don't know if you saw that Ricky Gervais thing.
That was hilarious.
Liam Neeson talking about, I want to do stand-up comedy. It's so good. Look, remind us, we'll put a link in the show notes to this great video of Liam Neeson pitching to Ricky Gervais that he wants to do stand-up comedy. It is one of the funniest things I've seen on YouTube in a long time. The date sounds right. A Million Ways to Die in the West. I'm afraid of it getting overshadowed by this Ted news because this does look good. But yeah, sign me up. I cannot wait to see A Million Ways or Ted 2. This is gonna be great.
I'm excited for Giovanni Ribisi. He's so underrated, and I love him. And to see him in a comedy is going to be amazing because he's perfect for this.
Well, you know, and we already saw him work really well with Seth MacFarlane in the first Ted. I'm really happy that he's bringing him back for A Million Ways to Die in the West. All right, folks, we reached that part of the show for Buy and Sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Chris Lee has a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down, and Dennis and I are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Chris Lee, what do we have?
Warner Brothers has been trying to get a Twilight Zone film moving for years now. Back in 2011, Cloverfield and Let Me In director Matt Reeves was set to direct the new film, but he left the project and is instead directing next year's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Now it seems Twilight Zone has finally landed its new director. Tron Legacy and Oblivion director Joseph Kosinski will helm the film, which will be produced by Leonardo DiCaprio. John, buy or sell Kosinski directing Twilight Zone?
Okay, I'm going to give this a buy, but hesitantly buy, because I am fascinated about a Twilight Zone film as opposed to a Twilight film. I am very fascinated by a Twilight Zone film, and I want to see more from Kosinski here. I was not thrilled with Tron Legacy. I was also not thrilled with Oblivion, but I see sparks there. I saw some really good elements in Tron. I saw some really good elements in Oblivion. So I want to see more from him. But like I said, I wasn't thrilled with him, so I can't be enthusiastic with my buy. But it is a buy nonetheless. Dennis, how do you see it?
I'm going to have to sell it. I wasn't that impressed with Tron Legacy or Oblivion. I thought they were both okay. I liked Oblivion a little bit more than Tron Legacy. But like part of what Oblivion had was, well, the story was supposed to be kind of suspenseful in a way. I mean, kind of. And I don't know if he did that well. And so something like a Twilight Zone, I think, doesn't fit into at least anything I've seen him do before.
This past Saturday's shooting officially wrapped on the upcoming film X-Men Days of Future Past, which is set to hit AMC theaters everywhere on May 23rd, 2014. A new still from the movie has hit the web, which has Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Nicholas Hoult as Hank McCoy, and James McAvoy as Charles Xavier. Dennis, buy or sell what you're seeing from X-Men Days of Future Past?
Oh, I'm buying all of it. I'm eating it up. I mean, you know, including the, you know, the after credit scene of Wolverine and all the the pictures they're releasing, and just it just seems like they're really focused and they know what they want out of this movie, which is, you know, a very good sign for us fans. The picture itself, I'm not too sold on that. It looks kind of funny. They're just like sitting there in the middle of the hallway, kind of like looking all mad and angry. So I'm like, I don't know where this is coming from, but overall, I buy everything that's coming out of there.
In the picture, it looks like they're getting ready to audition for that 70s show.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm going to buy this because for a couple of reasons. One, I'm so excited they finished shooting. This thing is really coming. It's really happening. Plus, this weekend, I finally had a chance, because I wasn't in Hall H for it at Comic-Con. I finally saw the trailer for X-Men Days of Future Past that they played at Comic-Con, and it is awesome. It was on YouTube for about 5 seconds before the studios found it and had it pulled off. So I don't know if you can find it anywhere right now. Maybe you can, but it looked remarkable. The one question I have about this image, though, is you see Holt as Beast, right? Well, in X-Men First Class, he permanently changed into Beast, and now we see him in human form again.
We think he did.
Well, we think we did. So it's going to be interesting to see how that balanced that out. But overall, absolutely, for me, everything that has to do, including this picture about X-Men Days of Future Past, is a buy.
You know, I have to tell you, and I'm sad to admit this, when we were at Comic-Con and they brought out the entire cast, not only did I get goosebumps, I actually got teary-eyed, which is so not me, but I'm so excited for this because First Class was one of my favorite X-Men movies, so this I feel like is just going to be such a notch up. I'm so excited. And they're being men in that picture, guys. They're being men.
Manly 70s men.
Men. A number of new promotional material images for the upcoming The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, has hit the web, and interestingly, most of them prominently feature Immortals and Fast and Furious 6 actor Luke Evans as Bard the Bowman. These images have a lot of people speculating that Evans' role in the upcoming film could be more significant than we originally thought. John, buy or sell the theory that Bard will have a larger role in the Hobbit story than we thought?
I'm going to sell it, but I remember, like, from the 1970s cartoon, which I watched, you know, replays of when I was a kid. I remember Bard having this great line in the cartoon where he pulls out this one arrow and he says, "Black arrow, passed to me by my father and his fathers before him. You have always been true and I have always recovered you. Now find your target true," and lets it off and shoots the arrow at Smaug. Just an awesome moment in that cartoon. I think he will play a significant role because anybody who knows the story knows that he is a significant character. I don't know that he's actually going to get that much screen time, though. I think they're going to keep the focus mostly, and I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong because I love Luke Evans.
Yeah.
But I think they're mostly going to keep the focus on the dwarves, because there's a lot of them, on Bilbo and on Gandalf. And if they do go more beyond that, I'll be happy, but I don't think they will, unfortunately. Dennis, how do you see it?
I'm going to buy it. I think they are going to give him more screen time. I mean, he is featured prominently in those pictures for those
very
things.
prominently.
Yeah, like his character pictures. Some of them, they're bigger than Bilbo.
Yeah.
You know, so I think they might be able to weave in his storyline even more so. So I buy it.
It's The Hobbit. I'm so excited. Smaug was one of my favorite parts of all the books. Like, this is huge. I'm super excited for this.
All right, folks, we've reached that part of the show for Mailbag. Listen, if you've got a topic or a question you'd like us to address on the show, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Now, we get over 1,000 emails a week. We can only pick out a couple, but maybe we'll get to yours. Right now, Chris Lee's got a couple pulled out of the mailbag. So, Chris Lee, what do we have?
I do. Slade LeBlanc writes, "Hello, movie fans. In regards to the Star Trek Into Darkness discussion on Mailbag, it has got me thinking. Why do studios greenlight scripts like the ones for Dragon Ball Evolution or The Last Airbender instead of getting someone to rewrite it or make it better? For a movie like The Last Airbender, why not try to make the best out of the script and film instead of being dubbed? Worst movie of 2010. Would love to hear your thoughts. Love the show."
Hey, thanks a lot for the question, Slade, and it's a good question, a question I get sent to a lot. Here's the thing, though. We all think, a lot of us are guilty of this, we all think making a good movie is so easy.
Yeah.
Why don't they just make a good one? And, you know, I often get in these arguments with people. You know, people say, well, they didn't really care about this, or that director didn't really care about that movie, or they didn't really try on that movie. Look, I'm going to tell you right now, straight up, studios care. They want people to like their movies, because the more you like their movie, the more money they will make. They care. A director cares about every film that he makes. Why? Because his future as a director will often depend on how good his last film was. I mean, everybody cares and everybody wants to make good stuff, and they try. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I have read scripts to movies. I remember, what was the sequel to Clash of the Titans? Wrath of the Titans, right? I read that script 6 months before the movie came out. And I'm telling you, it read really well. Yeah. I read that script and I was like, this is going to be great. You're reading it on the page. But man, there is a big step from taking that script and then bringing it to the big screen, and a lot of translation that happens and all this kind of stuff. So while maybe you're reading it on a page and it sounds great and it plays out a certain way in your head, when they actually make it and it comes actually to the big screen in front of your eyes, then maybe you realize maybe this wasn't so good. Right. And look, when these studios greenlight these scripts, they greenlight them because they think they have potential. They greenlight them because they think there's something good in there. Maybe it's not a great story, but it'll make great spectacle, which is another question we'll get to in a bit. Maybe it's not this, but it'll be that. They try, and then sometimes it just doesn't work out, because making a good movie is a really, really, really hard thing to do, which is why we idolize so many of the guys who do consistently do it well, because there's so few people who can actually pull it off. So why don't they try and make better ones? They do try to make better ones. Every time they greenlight it, they think they've got a good one, but it doesn't always work out. Dennis, as a filmmaker yourself, you've got a perspective on this. How do you see it?
I think politics also plays a lot into it. I mean, when he's talking about The Last Airbender, well, M. Night actually, he wrote the script for it, you know, and it has to do with politics of, you know, his position of power. He's able to do that. He said, okay, I'm directing, I'm going to write it too, even if that's not in the best interest of the movie.
Right.
And maybe now he has less power. People are going to say, hey, you know, you got to have this kind of read by someone else or fixed up. But at that time, he had the power to do that. So I think that plays into it. And I agree with you. Like, it's not always, you know, sometimes the script can be fantastic and the movie just, you know, and the director maybe doesn't have the same vision or is not really, I mean, it's a cliche, he's not on the same page as the screenwriter. So sometimes that just doesn't come out right.
It gets lost in translation.
There's just so many elements between the actors and the director and the writer and the producers, and everyone doesn't have the same vision usually, so getting it from page to pictures is hard.
Difficult.
Brent Mendoza writes, hey movie talkers, love the show and keep up the great work. I've been watching for a few months now and got so addicted to the show that when I searched upper episodes on YouTube, I came across old ones that were a little over or close to an hour long, and another show similar called For Your Consideration. Whatever happened to that, and will AMC Movie Talk ever go back to being that long?
Thank you for the question, man. We do get asked this a lot. Why don't you do the show an hour long? Number one, because I would die.
We would save you.
But okay, so what was For Your Consideration? Like, For Your Consideration, really, before AMC, before I ever came aboard with AMC, Dennis and I actually used to do a weekly show on our own for fun that we called For Your Consideration. It was just talking, it was a weekly show that we just did about movie news and blah, blah, blah. When we decided to start a show on AMC, and Dennis was working with me again, we decided, well, why don't we go with a name that's we're already familiar with and a lot of people already know from watching us in our past. Let's just call it For Your Consideration. And For Your Consideration was different than AMC Movie Talk. It wasn't a daily movie news show. It was a once-a-week wrap-up of the biggest stories of the week. And therefore, since it was only once a week and we had like a week's worth of stories to do, we were more conversational and we could go an hour long, right? Well, now fast forward to now. Now this is a daily show. So we don't have a week's worth of stuff to talk about in one show. We have 24 hours worth of stuff. We have 1 day's worth of stuff. So there's not that much stuff to cover. Plus, the other thing to keep in mind is that for every minute that this show is in length equals about 15 to 20 minutes or more of actual work that has to go into it. So if this movie's a half hour long, maybe it takes us 3.5 hours to edit, post-production it, and get it uploaded. If we're an hour long, we're probably looking 6 or 7 hours to do all that. It just takes too long, so we can't do stuff like that. However, I will let you know this. We have been planning, and we are in talks and the planning stages right now. We have 2 shows on AMC Movie News right now. We got AMC Movie Talk and AMC Mailbag. We are in the planning stage right now of launching 5 new shows. And at least one or two of them will be hour-long weekly shows. Some of them will be shorter, like more information type shows, like 10 to 15 minutes long, but some of them are going to be much, much, much larger as well. So we are in the planning stages of doing that right now. But will AMC Movie Talk, the daily movie news show, ever be an hour long? Hell no. No. And this will never be an hour long, ever, 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 ever.
Some days we'd just be talking to ourselves because some days there's not enough news for an hour.
Sometimes not enough. And even if there was, Dennis would kill me.
Yeah.
Dennis would kill me because of how much post-production has to be done on these afterwards. Anyway, Dennis, your thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would kill you.
Did you want to sleep ever, Dennis?
I like sleeping. I like sleeping and like having some free time. I mean, I also need time to watch the movies we talk about.
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, if we did all the things that people want us to do, I wouldn't have time to actually watch anything.
Yeah, no, agreed. Hope that answers your question.
Andrew Adams writes, greetings and salutations, AMC Movie Talk. Can't get enough of your show. Anyways, what if Neill Blomkamp directed the Justice League movie? He's a great director, and I like the way he films his movies. It would fit great in the DC cinematic universe, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
I respect the opinion. I see where you're coming from, Andrew, but I have to respectfully disagree, especially after seeing Elysium. Now, one of my big things, I was one of the lone voices out there who agreed with the studio's decision to pull the plug on the Halo movie because Peter Jackson was insisting on this completely inexperienced guy who had never directed a film before by the name of Neill Blomkamp. Now, then we saw District 9, and a lot of people jumped up and down and said, let me back up a bit. I also said at the time, let Neill direct some smaller scale films because Halo was going to be a massive tentpole film. I said, let Neill direct some smaller stuff first. It would be better for him. It would be better for the studio. It would be better for everybody. And so what did he do? Neill then came out and made this film that was based on a short film he had already done. It was his own world that he had created, which is the perfect place for him to cut his teeth on a full-length feature film called District 9, right? We all saw how good District 9 was.
So good.
And then a lot of people jumped the gun and said, well, see, it was great, therefore he should have been allowed to do Halo. But I said, as much as I love District 9, and everybody who's watched the show knows how much I like District 9, I said, remember, this was his world that he's been playing with for 10 years. He's already made this film before as a short film, and now he's made into a full-length feature. Let's see him expand himself a little bit and do more. Let's see, could he have taken somebody else's material, like a Halo, and actually done it justice? We don't know yet. Let's let him continue to grow and evolve. And the thing that I'm concerned with Elysium, because I didn't mind Elysium, but I was really disappointed in compared to where my expectations were because it was so unbelievably and undeniably reflective and similar to District 9 that I walked out and gone, you know, I just saw Neill Blomkamp make the same movie. I just see him make the same movie. I haven't seen his ability to step outside of himself and do something not better, but bigger, something broader in scope outside of this one little box that we've seen him now do for 2 straight films. And the first one was amazing. Second one, not so much. But like I said, I was concerned because it was so incredibly similar, plot point for plot point. It felt to me like an identical film to District 9. So would I want to see him do a Justice League at this point? No. No, I wouldn't, because I haven't seen that he's able to step outside of his own box yet. And I'm not saying he won't be able to do it. I'm willing to put money on it that once we see Neill Blomkamp, and maybe Chappie will be that film, because he's got another film he's going to start working on here called Chappie. Maybe that will be the film that shows us. I believe he can do it. I just want to see him do it first before we entrust a franchise like, say, Justice League to him, because I don't think he's shown us yet, or shown himself yet, that he can move beyond his own material. That's just my thought. Dennis, as a filmmaker, how do you see it?
I really like Neill Blomkamp. I think he's a good director. Justice League, I don't think is the right fit for him, especially at this point, because I love District 9, and it focused on one character, and I think it did very good character development in there. And then when he had more characters to deal with in Elysium, a movie which I didn't hate, I actually liked it, but it is vastly inferior to District 9. When he had the whole cast of characters, I don't think he was able to properly tie everything together and go into depth with those characters. And so Justice League, it's going to be a bunch of new characters. I don't think he can, at this point, handle that. I'd actually rather see him get a lesser-known superhero. Throw him a Flash, or if you want to do Aquaman or something like that, do that first, and then maybe we'll talk about it like a whole team-up thing.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. All right, folks, listen, we've reached the end of the line. That'll do it for today because we're not doing an hour-long show. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, if you've got any idea about what a great kick-ass name would be, don't forget to take a picture of yourself striking a pose and send it in to us so you can get your hands on this very kick-ass 2 hoodie. Well, not this specific one because Chris Lee's keeping this one, but others just like it, and you can have that in your hands. Hey, listen, folks, if you haven't subscribed to us already, take a second, click on the subscribe button, become a subscriber to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news, and of course, our daily AMC Movie Talk show that is 30 minutes long, and of course, our weekend AMC Mailbag show. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook. If you'd like an audio-only version of this episode, look in the show notes below for links to our iTunes and our Stitcher Radio. So you can listen to us on the way to work or while you're doing homework or whatever you want. Maybe while your wife is trying to talk to you. Those are great uses for the show. So I want to thank, as always, first of all, our lovely host, Miss Chris Lee Kennedy. Chris Lee, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Chris Lee, and please like my Facebook page.
The one and the only Mr. Dennis Zen. Dennis, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero and on Facebook, just my name.
And you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, just at John Campia. Thank you so much for joining us today, folks. Most important part of the show is what you have to say. Jump into the comments section below. Leave your thoughts on any or all the topics we discussed here today. Agree, disagree. Debating is one of the best things about being a film fan. Just be respectful while you're doing it. So, until next time, my name's John Campia for AMC Movie News. And until then, bye-bye.